for joining us. We're seeing some gains on the bourse today. Is that purely because of the big counters like EABL, Safaicom, etc.?
Well, thank you very much, Fenly, and I'm really happy to be here. We are seeing a lot of gains, which is very encouraging, especially for our market. And as you noted earlier, today we closed almost just 12 points short of 3,200 mark. And some of the counters that are really supporting that, as you mentioned, is Safaricom, which is trading at an all-time high. We are almost seeing it going towards the issue price of 5 shillings. And some of the blue chips like KPLC, East African Breweries has been fairly stagnant at 139 shillings.
Well, why is there such a strong foreign presence in stocks like KPLC, Safaricom, Kenya Airways and KenGen?
Well, some of the trends that we are seeing, especially in our markets towards the close of the year with some of the foreign investors, is a lot of optimism that comes with the new year that might be closing in. And so as a result of that, we see a lot of foreigners and fund managers being able to take advantage of the markets, especially around this time, mainly for speculative reasons as well as for short-term gains. But so at this time when we are seeing them targeting some of these blue chips, there are a lot of gains that come along with it. For instance, Kenya Power just announced 6 shillings dividend, which is very, very attractive.
But how speculative is KPLC after the recent corporate action?
Well, KPLC is relatively speculative because they are planning some major moves. We are seeing them planning to recapitalize in terms of conversion of some of their preference shares into equity, as well as doing a share split and also a rights issue, which definitely comes along with a lot of speculation in terms of price margins gains, especially in terms of speculative buyers.
Well, let's look at the other sector, the banking sector. Why is the banking sector rather subdued this week, the likes of Equity Bank, Co-op, etc.?
Well, some of those counters, especially Co-op, which is what we call a penny stock because of the way it is lowly priced. Equity Bank has been fairly speculative, especially because of the fairly excellent performance that usually announces, has basically kept some of those stocks a bit depressed, especially this week, because as of now, some of those counters have already announced their results, except for Barclays, which recently announced.
Well, Barclays Bank, why were many expecting that they would report a decline?
Well, Barclays, for one, is a Tier 1 bank, and Tier 1 banks are expected to be among the first banks to announce, especially earlier on in the month. And you can see basically Barclays was among the last banks to announce. As a result of that, we saw a lot of panic selling, especially during the last 2 weeks, where we saw the share almost drop significantly to 43. But because of the fairly good announcement, we are seeing it gaining significantly. Today, it was almost 46 shillings up.
Do you think Barclays Bank of Kenya should be changing their strategy going forward, or should they keep to what they have?
Well, their strategy is relatively good because it seems like it's a hybrid, basically in terms of the more conservative lending and the more outright approach in terms of opening branches and such. Yet, because of that, it's able to at least tap from both sides. And the strategy looks fairly good, and also because of their capital base, it enables them to be able to still lend. And the fact that they are multinational, also they're able to boost in terms of their reserves. So basically, their approach looks positive, and hopefully next year we'll see them performing much more better than what we saw this quarter.
Well, how do you expect the bourse to close this week? We're seeing some gains midweek. How do you expect it to close on Friday?
Well, I'm very optimistic, and I'm also fairly bullish with the market. I hope that by the end of this week, we'll be closing in on the 3,200 mark. And hopefully, if the foreigners continue supporting the bourse, as we are seeing, it's going to continue also boosting our economy. And also such conferences like the one you mentioned earlier are going to be held in terms of our markets. It's also giving us a bit of a foreign presence and also marketability.
And which stocks are you keeping an eye on?
Well, at the moment, I'm still looking at the banking stocks, which are relatively lowly priced, and also we are hoping that they're going to be able to sail through, especially at this time, and also recover fast in terms of the economy, and also some of the industrial stocks like KenGen, which basically did a bond offer recently, and we are hoping that they're going to be able to be translating that into some fairly gains in terms of their bottom line.